betrayal, drugs, and revenge. My girlfriend cheated. So I destroyed both their lives. I never imagined my life would spiral into a twisted tale of infidelity, betrayal, and calculated revenge. But here I am, staring at the wreckage of what once was. What started as a seemingly perfect relationship with a woman I adored devolved into a nightmare I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Buckle up, because this is how I found my girlfriend cheating with my best friend, and how I meticulously dismantled their lives piece by piece. My girlfriend, Hannah, and I grew up in the same town, a cozy little place where everyone knew everyone. We reconnected a few years back, and it felt like fate. I landed a job that required a lot of travel, but I managed to snag an office in my hometown so I could stay close to her. After a year, I decided to buy a house in my hometown. Life was good. One fateful Friday, I returned from a work trip to find her in the arms of my close friend and colleague, Craig. Craig and I had known each other for years. Not from high school, but we grew close after becoming co-workers. One night he introduced me to Hannah, and everything clicked. Hannah and my parents got along very well, and she had some deep relationship issues in the past. Everything was going well. We decided to take the next step with the relationship. Then things started to go south. FaceTime sessions were cut short. She would not answer the phone. I even found clothes in my ward that were not mine. At first, I dismissed the red flags, the shortened FaceTime calls, the unanswered texts, even the unfamiliar clothes I found in my closet. She would always claim it was nothing, that I was overthinking things, brushing my worries aside with practiced ease. But that nagging feeling persisted, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. Then one day I decided to come home early from a negotiation. I booked a flight home without telling her, hoping to surprise her, to reassure myself that my fears were unfounded. Instead, I walked straight into my worst nightmare. As I turned into our street, an unfamiliar car was parked blocking the back neighbor. My blood ran cold. It hadn't been for the hi-hat I would have never caught Craig. I parked behind him and got out to go approach my door when the hi-hat let me know it was Craig's car that was blocking the neighbor. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the back of the house. He was always gone by now, she said. Then I saw it, through the kitchen window. A scene so grotesque, so utterly devastating, that it momentarily paralyzed me. There, on my dining room table, in my house, were Hannah and Craig, locked in a vile act of betrayal. My best friend was having sex with my girlfriend in my goddamn house. The world swam. I felt like I was going to be sick. I have no idea what to do. I fled, driving aimlessly for what felt like an eternity. Tears streaming down my face. Violence was never my way. But a cold, burning rage took its place. I would make them pay. Not with fists, but with calculated precision. I drove back up the alley and parked where I could still see Craig's car. They both looked at the caller ID, a look of shock on their faces as my name came up. She contemplated answering, and I dialed once again. I hung up and went back to my car. As soon as I did, she called back and asked why I was calling so late. I told her I was 15 minutes from home and did not want to scare her. She said she was getting ready for bed. I laughed a little before turning my car into the same place and parking. I spent the night in a daze. The image seared into my brain. Revenge became my only focus. My mother always taught me to be a pack. I decided to punish them both separately. Methodically, I would unravel their lives, expose their secrets, and leave them with nothing but regret. I remembered a secret of Craig's that I had accidentally discovered in his office. Some weeks later, I told him to stay the night and sleep it off until the wee hours of the morning. I took his keys and drove to our branch office. I went to work knowing he was drunk and would not be awake until the morning. Craig had always been careful to hide his drug habit, but I knew the truth. A few weeks prior, I had walked in on him stashing some coke in his desk drawer. He attempted to cover it, but I played dumb, pretended I hadn't seen anything. I was doing him a solid because we had a strict no substance abuse in the workplace policy. This time, I wouldn't be so lenient. I went straight for his office, to the drawer where I had seen him stashing his drugs. I was shocked by what I discovered. It was a full space. He had all types of stuff in there. I took photos and put everything back in place before leaving. Frank had to be using drugs at least twice a day based on the drugs I saw in his drawer. Everything was set. As for Hannah, I needed to plant the seeds of suspicion, to create a narrative that would justify my actions. A few days later, I told Hannah we should install CCTV cameras around the house. I told her this for added security. She hesitated and said she had heard stories about cameras being hacked by scammers. Now I see why she was bothered by this. Before returning to the city, I made sure to pry open the back door in the kitchen and leave it. I received several messages the moment I arrived. I told the police I would be back the following week to talk. While away, I got Hannah to stay with my parents until I returned. I asked my dad to organize one of the local security companies to install the cameras. I had the security company representative walk Hannah, and I through how the cameras and alarm system work. When she asked how to protect our privacy and what happens if we do some business and don't want to record it, she was very shy. He assured us that he was asked that frequently. He then showed us how to turn off certain cameras. He came back in and showed me how to set up email notifications. All I had to do was wait. At this point, I approached some legal advice groups on here for some help in relation to a couple's law in my country. I wanted to make sure that my upcoming plan could be legally carried out, and that I would not be forced to pay out any money to Hannah. I had to return to the city and lead the team that was a part of the success of my hometown. I said yes and began the process of initiating my transfer. It was perfect. I then decided to take 2 weeks vacation on the other side of the country. On Sunday. 2 weeks later, I flew back and began driving home. Craig's car was there like the first night. I parked a little ways back and checked the CCTV camera. I couldn't find them anywhere. I found them paired on our bed. I then made my first call to the police, blocking my caller ID. I said someone was hanging around in their car in the alley behind my house, and occasionally passing something through windows, and I was concerned that they were dealing drugs. I gave them the license plate and the description for Craig to be the drug dealer. They said they would have someone there in a few minutes. Then, using a new email I just opened, I sent the photos of the other night to his boss. Looking back at the footage now, in a few short seconds, I couldn't have asked for a more perfect traffic scene. As Craig was feeling away, one of the police cars rounded the corner behind me. After pulling in, greeting, an excited Hannah, she fell asleep. I, on the other hand, could not sleep awake. The next day, she and her friends were bundled into a car. After they drove away, I had to wait a few hours. But I began to execute my plan. I called my friend, who was a removalist, and apologized for the late notice. But I needed my place packed and moved on Friday. I then began packing Hannah's belongings. Later that day, I got a call from the police for me to identify if I knew Craig, and if I suspected him of any suspicious activities or doing drugs. I expressed complete shock and replied no to every question. That same night, Craig was arrested for possession of illegal drugs in his vehicle. It was a win-win situation. Time for Craig had grown to fruition. By that stage, the town was buzzing with the news. Craig was disgraced and fired for his possession of drugs. That night, I went to my parents' house and told them, and Hannah's parents as well. They were upset I had not told them, but were happy I was handling everything maturely. I went home. On Friday afternoon, I packed some things into my car and drove to my parents' place. Catherine had been one of Hannah's closest friends growing up. She was the only other person who knew what was happening. She also had a crush on Craig. I probably wouldn't have been able to organize everything as quickly as I had. I gave Catherine a large manila folder with my gathered evidence, legal documents from my attorney stating that she was ordered not to contact me, and the details of how to access her belongings located at the storage unit I had rented out. I left and drove back to the city. On Sunday, I woke up to several angry voice messages, only to find an empty house and a for rent sign out front. Numerous angry texts and voice messages from her accusing me of setting up Craig of being deceitful. I was afraid she would show up at my front door, but nothing happened. I moved on. A month later, I received a message from my old girl. She said she just found out her partner cheated on her. She said she did it on Saturday night at a party that she was meant to invite me to but didn't. On Sunday, she broke up with me over text. She wouldn't admit she hooked up with anyone the previous night. I asked her why it matters. Her friend had told me, and my ex's words were we had sex 7 times over 12 hours, and it was literally so amazing. Can someone come pick me up so I don't have to get an Uber? She said she did nothing wrong because we were on a break. She then told me it was my fault because I never gave her enough attention. Her friends have been screenshotting my Tinder profile and saying that I'm a terrible person, and she's glad to be done with me. I literally have done nothing wrong. Before I knew she cheated. Memories of our relationship, everything I was grateful for. She sent me a photo of her crying, saying if this doesn't show you how much I care, I don't know. What will? I'm not sure if I should let her say her piece, or if I should just not say anything and cut off contact. Advice, please. The question that burns in my mind is, did I go too far? Was my revenge justified? Or did I let my pain consume me and turn me into someone I no longer recognize? I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole situation. Did I handle it well? Please feel free to share your honest feedback. Your opinions matter.